Hello everyone, welcome to the video. My name is Maze and today we are going to be finishing the 11 Deacon's crosses. So this is where we left off in the last video, and I was pretty much sitting pretty right here thinking I could just cruise to the finish line, and then right when I could see the end in sight, I stumbled. So right here you could see the plaque that I engraved. It says, "It is I who choose you." Well, it turns out it was supposed to be "I who chose you," and it's been their motto for the 8 years they've been studying to be a deacon, so there was no changing it. So I tried to come up with some creative solution so I wouldn't have to re-engrave everything. I tried this here where I just engraved a smaller one and put it on top, but I just did not like the way it looked. Finally had to just buckle down and redo it. So let's make some dust. So first thing I had to do was plane off the plywood plaque I had already done. This was good to relieve kind of some of the frustration. Just one little O kind of ruined all my plans, and now it set me back. It took me a whole day to redo the bases and re-put the plywood on, because I could only glue up 2 at a time with the amount of clamps I had. So I roughly marked it out a new plaque, and I drilled some holes so I could find my mortise again, and then glued that to the top of my base. You can see it's a lot bigger than it needed to be. All I had to do was make sure that my holes were inside the mortise and that all the edges were covered, so I can go back to the belt sander and sand it a little bit closer to the edge, still leaving it slightly proud. And then I could go back to the router and router my bevels back in, and it brings it nice and flush again. And then I could stick my trim router with a flush trim bit into that hole and trim out the mortise, and then had to clean out some of the squeeze out and get the corners nice and sharp again. And now I'm back to right here, so clean slate. Now I could re-engrave it. I redid my template to be the right one, and on Inkscape, it's a free program. You can Google it. It's a good way to make these types of templates. And then just started engraving again. This took me the better part of a day. It takes about a half hour for each one. And I just, it's real easy to kind of get mad, but I just told myself I needed to practice, and there was a time, and sometimes, when there is no work to do and you're just praying, "God, please send me some work." And so when you have too much work, or you're not sure if you're going to be able to get it done, you just remember those times and you just put your head down and get it done. And remind yourself, this is what you asked for. And now I'm back to where I was, except everything's correct. And so now I'm finalizing the shape of the sash. I had planned on doing this with my hand chisels just because it's a little bit funner and relaxing, but I had to get it done fast, so I used a Dremel. Ends up the same way, it's just not as fun. And then just cleaning everything up, sanding it to 120, using the card scrapers in the corners, making sure the sash is nice, making sure everything is sanded and smooth, ready to go. And then same thing with the base, just sanding everything, getting some of the glue that's squeezed out from the bottom tier and the middle tier, using card scraper and some chisels just to clean everything and get it nice. A tip here is when you got this much hand sanding to do, You want to use some painter's tape on your thumb and on your index finger, because if you spend all day hand sanding, you are going to sand down your fingernails all the way to the tip. The very bottom I could use the orbital sander, and then you finally get to glue in the cross. And you can see here I learned my lesson, and I have some tape on my thumb. That's one of those things you only learn when you're in the trenches. Here I'm sanding everything to 220, and this is the final sanding, so everything has to just be perfect. And then I spray it with some water to raise the grain, let it dry, and then I'm sanding it again at 220, just knocking down the grain that was raised so very lightly. And then it's some boiled linseed oil. And I'm just doing this for color. It's not really as a varnish, it's just as a stain really. It's like the way it looks. It darkens the wood, gives it a little bit more of an aged look. And so I'm kind of just putting it on there and then wiping it all off real quickly. And then let that stay overnight and gas off. And they are looking pretty, if you ask me. And so for the final finish, I'm just using shellac. It doesn't need to be super durable, but it needs to be a little bit more than just boiled linseed oil and wax. So I'm just putting the first coat on and just keeping it real smooth, not letting it run at all. Normally I would do it from the top down, but this was the only way I would be able to hold it real well. And then I used a Scotch-Brite pad in between coats and put a second coat on. And it's pretty much was done after the second coat. You know, I usually play by ear on the number of coats I put on. You know, always at least 2, sometimes 3 or 4, but there they are, 11 crosses. One for each of the deacons and for each disciple minus Judas. And we are all done. It was a fun project. I enjoyed it. I got to go to their ceremony and watch them be ordained. It was an honor and a privilege to be able to make them for these gentlemen. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you would click like and subscribe for me, I would appreciate it. If you know anyone who might be interested in this, share it with them. Check me out on Instagram and support your local craftsmen, or get out in your workshops and make your own dust.